Information-fueled.
Opinion-driven.
This is Nashville's Morning News with Dan Mandis.
And so, my fellow Americans,
we talk news.
5:07, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk, 89.7 WTN. Good morning to you, friends. Welcome on into a Thursday, January 30th of 2025. Man, there is a lot of news to get to. Of course, we have this helicopter versus plane crash that happened in Washington, D.C. We're going to talk about that. You know, Joan Jones, of course, hailing from Washington, D.C. That's where she lived before, here in Tennessee. So, Joan, you've been to Reagan International, I'm assuming, many times.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you're familiar with this airport. I want to play some audio real quick, but there's a number of things that are going on. Number one is, it took literally mere seconds for people to start politicizing this. And of course, blaming Donald Trump. So we're going to get into that because I'm going to debunk a lot of that crap that people are putting onto the socials. And so we'll get to all that. But I do kind of want to focus on exactly what happened. If you haven't seen the video, basically, you've got this airplane, and it's a commercial airplane. So 64 people on board? And it is landing. And this Black Hawk helicopter just, I don't know any other way to explain this. The Black Hawk helicopter runs into the airplane, flies right into the airplane, and they both crash into the Potomac. And I have, if you follow me on X, at Dan Mandis Show, I've gone ahead and posted the video on my X feed. Now, there's a lot here. And so this happened around 7:50 p.m. our time. And so the plane is flying, and the helicopter, the air traffic controller literally told the helicopter to fly, I guess, behind the airplane. But it didn't. This is what it sounded like, because a lot of questions are being asked. So that is the air traffic controller, and they're asking the helicopter if they can see the commercial airliner. And so that's the tower saying, Pat 2, do you have the CRJ in sight? If you didn't hear that, let me play it for you one more time. They're asking the helicopter pilot, the Black Hawk helicopter pilot, do you see the commercial aircraft? And they just, apparently I don't know if they responded or not. Then a few seconds later, you can hear in this audio the other air traffic controllers, because the mic was open, reacting to the crash as they saw it happen. Did you hear that? Did you hear them say, oh my gosh, and sort of like the surprise in their voices, the reaction as they saw this happen? So you can hear it. And so if you folks have seen the video, again, you can go see it on my X feed. It does look like the Black Hawk helicopter just flies right into the airplane. You have the air traffic control telling the helicopter, or asking the helicopter, do you see the airplane? Do you have it in sight? It doesn't sound like there was a response. I heard Joan, Fox News, talking about how they may have been on different frequencies. So
yes. So what I'm hearing is that there are two different means of communication at the tower there in at Washington Reagan National. Mm-hmm. And one is for helicopters, mm-hmm. and one is for airplanes. Yep. And of course, it could be that the two sources of information didn't cross with each other.
But here's what I don't understand, is that if you're in a helicopter, you have radar, and you've got, obviously, windows. And so you can see if you're around other aircraft. You can see it on the radar. You should be communicating with the tower. And obviously, you are looking in front of you. And so if you're flying a helicopter, and I've never flown obviously a helicopter or, I'm not a pilot. But, it would just stand to reason that if you're flying, you can see a big old airplane coming in your direction and you could be on a collision course. That's number one. Number two, that if you know anything about flying, you know that behind an airplane, there is something called wake turbulence. Now, wake turbulence is like, when you're in a boat in the water, you look behind the boat and the water is there's turbulence in the water because of the boat. Well, the same thing happens with aircraft, where if an aircraft is flying, then there's going to be a sort of a wake, if you will, behind it. The air is going to be turbulent. And so if you look this up and you do a little research, you'll see that Black Hawk helicopters, and obviously there's a lot of other factors, weather and so forth, but Black Hawk helicopters, by and large, they're supposed to be 3 to 4 miles behind an airplane because of that wake turbulence. The helicopter doesn't want to fly right into that turbulent air that's coming in behind that airplane. And so if you're I'm just, sort of trying to connect dots here. So if you're flying that helicopter, you don't want to be right behind that airplane. You want to maybe turn left or go down or go up or whatever, but you don't want to be right behind it. In other words, if you look at the video, that helicopter, it's just making a beeline for the airplane. That's all I'm saying. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm the guy I'm very far from a conspiracy theorist. But I also look at things with an inquisitive mind. And when I watch that video, it does just look like that helicopter is not stopping. What did you see when you saw that video, Joan?
I saw the same. Now, here's another thought. First of all, there were questions about why there were just 3 people on the military helicopter. That apparently is normal. It's the pilot, the co-pilot, and one other person on the helicopter.
They were training. It was a training exercise.
Right. So this one pilot that I follow on Twitter says that it appears to him that sometimes when you're flying at night in an urban area and you're low to the ground, there are so many lights from the city area that it's confusing. You may think that the lights on an airplane ahead of you are actually on the ground.
They call that light pollution.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, they do. They call that light pollution.
Okay. So it may have been confusing for the pilot of the helicopter and didn't realize he was flying right into the plane.
I don't know.
Just another explanation.
Yep. Elon Musk tweeted out. What did Elon Musk tweet out? You were telling me about this earlier off the air. Elon Musk, he's got an inquisitive mind, like many people do. And what did he say, Joan?
He said, now I'm paraphrasing, but he said, you can't tell me that this wasn't intentional.
No dancing around that.
Yeah, no, he was pretty clear.
Here's what Donald Trump posted on his socials. The airplane was on a perfect and routine line of approach to the airport. The helicopter was going straight at the airport for an extended period of time. It is a clear night. The lights on the plane were blazing. Why didn't the helicopter go up or down or turn? Why didn't the control tower tell the helicopter what to do instead of asking if they saw the plane? This is a bad situation that looks like it should have been prevented. Not good. Exclamation point.
So, you know what? When you're in D.C., and anybody who comes from that region will tell you that the presence of the helicopters, they're always over the city.
Yep.
They're everywhere. They're all the time. They fly low, always flying low.
And it's very compact.
Yes. So there's a lot of areas. It's kind of confusing there. There's a lot of areas in DC where you can't fly. There's restricted airspace, of course, over the White House, over the Capitol building, the landmarks, the monuments all along the National Mall. All of that is restricted. So you can't fly in those areas. They have to fly essentially up the Potomac River. And that's the route that the airplane was taking. There's another thing here. At Reagan National Airport, and I'm sure that they do this at most airports, depending on the weather and where the winds are, they change the runways. You can land on runways and arrive on runways in different patterns based on the weather and the wind.
Yep.
So, there's just so many things to consider.
There is a lot to talk about. Weather, light pollution, this was a training. Who was behind who was flying the helicopter at the time? We don't know anything.
I find it interesting that I was listening to ABC News. ABC keeps saying that the plane collided with a helicopter, when in fact it was the helicopter that collided with the plane. That
helicopter collided. It looks to me like the helicopter collided with the plane.
There were no evasive measures. You didn't see that helicopter try to veer out of the way.
Nothing. If you're like in a car crash, usually somebody, turns.
At the very last second.
Yeah. And I saw somewhere, because I've been reading a lot about this, I saw somewhere where the plane did take some last second evasive maneuvers, but it was too late. You can't turn those planes on a dime. So
also that air, how you're seeing that video that comes from a camera that's placed on the Kennedy Center, which is the entertainment venue. Yeah. Very close to the water. So, but it's not very close to where that happened. So that's why it looks a little fuzzy. It's grainy. You really can't see, and the angle's not great. I'm very sure that there are other cameras and other angles, because there's a lot of, at the National Harbor right there, there's a lot of tall buildings. There's, huge, there's an amusement area down at National Harbor. MGM Casino is down there. I'm very sure that there's other angles of cameras that we're going to be able to see soon.
And here's the other thing that I would wonder, because again, it's just, if you've seen the video, it looks strange. It looks bizarre. I'm just going to say, of the angles that I've seen, it looks, I'm with Elon Musk. I'm with Donald Trump. There's a lot of questions. I'm not flat out saying that it was intentional. I'm not saying that. I've just got a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And so this has never happened before, where a Black Hawk helicopter has collided into a plane. It almost looks like, would you say that, and KGB, you can chime in here if you want, you saw it too, but it looks like the Black Hawk helicopter sort of T-boned, if you will, the plane. Do you know what I mean by that?
I know exactly what you mean. It did look like it hit, again, it's so grainy, like what Joan said, but it looked like it hit the middle. Right in the where the passengers are, which is horrifying.
It is horrifying. And by the way, you saw the, we don't have time now, but who was on the plane? Apparently there were some folks from the
U.S. skating.
U.S. figure skaters.
Also
Russians as well, right?
Also a couple of Russian skaters. Yep.
Yeah. It's sad.
Yeah.
And the fact that there are so many people politicizing this, it was immediate, including people that I respect that have politicized this. So, we're going to keep you updated on this. Again, there's a lot of questions. If you want to see the video, you can. I've posted it on my social media, on my X, at Dan Mandis Show. Follow me there. It is 5:20. We forgot to do traffic. I'm going to assume, Joan, at this early hour that there is no traffic to speak of.
Really nothing. There's a crash in Crossville, 40 westbound before Crossville exit 322. That's it, really.
All right, very good. It is 5:20 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7. So again, we are going to keep you updated on all things going on there in Washington, D.C. Going to talk about the politicization of all of this as well. There's a lot to cover this morning. Also, we're going to talk about the RFK confirmation hearings yesterday. Did you watch any of that, Joan?
Oh, yeah.
These people are nuts. Democrats are just nuts.
They're so vicious when they don't speak to people as if they're humans.
No. And that's a great point. We're going to talk about that and a whole lot more straight ahead.